Welcome to the Society of Cryptid Hunters podcast. Josh and David, just two regular guys with a passion and interest in our unknown and unexplained hidden world. This show delves into the latest sightings, theories, research, and stories in the field of cryptozoology. If you enjoy the show and don't want to miss an episode, please give them a follow and leave them a comment. Let's embark on this journey together and keep an open mind as we explore the mysterious world of cryptids. Well, welcome to the show. You heard the new opening, but we are the Society of Cryptid Hunters, and welcome to the Society of Cryptid Hunters podcast. First episode, and I think a lot of the thinking in this was that David and I prefer to talk about things that you can probably find and probably research a little bit better than the things that are out there when it comes to UFOs and UAPs and weird, way out there things. But we'll probably talk about them anyway here and there. So
we'll get into it, definitely.
Especially it has to do with cryptozoology. So I was on Reddit earlier and I was looking up some stuff, and there are people on there that do call themselves self-proclaimed cryptozoologists. So
all right. So today's episode is going to be about Champ.
Yeah, it's going to be about, well, for those that don't know who Champ is, and this is an interesting one. This is one I've learned about for a very, very long time, and I don't think a lot of people do know, but there are.
No, I never knew about it.
You never knew about it. Okay.
Yeah, I did a ton of research about it because I didn't know this thing existed.
Yeah. So let's start from the beginning. We're talking about cryptids in these episodes, and we're gonna just jump into like one of the most popular ones that people talk about, and that's the sea creature or sea monster type. If you want to start with the most popular one that most people would know, we're going to talk about the Loch Ness Monster. Okay. Now, I don't know. As much as I know about the Loch Ness Monster through movies, books, just growing up and reading things, I that one just never had a big interest in me. Just never did. I did read the book The Loch. I can't remember who wrote that, but that was an interesting book about how it could be a giant eel, which was interesting. But that's just when we're talking about sea monsters, sea creatures. You look at the history and the folklore of these creatures, of like the kraken, the giant octopus, all kinds of things. You've seen those old drawings of like people drew back in the day when they just discovered how to write, right?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just to get people in the mindset when we're talking cryptids, when we get into Champ from Lake Champlain, it's technically a sea creature when it comes to a cryptid.
So Lake Champlain is 4,400 square miles, and it spans to New York and Vermont. Samuel de Champlain in 1609 allegedly said that he saw a 20-foot serpent-like creature that had a body like a thick barrel and a head like a horse. And I'm going to circle back into, because that's the lore that from what he said, and I'm going to circle back into later what his actual journal stated, because I think his journal statement is very interesting and completely different to what I just said. And in 1849, there were some bones found in Vermont. There was a bunch of people that were doing the railroad, and they found a whale, an extremely old whale. Because, I always say, where are the bones?
Yeah.
But they found a whale in Vermont in the Lake Champlain Valley, very close to where this is at. And it goes, they started talking, when I was researching, they were talking about, that at one point, like that Lake Champlain might have connected to the Pacific. And maybe that's how this happened. July 5th, 1977, a snapshot, what looks like, okay. So in 1977, on July 5th, which happens to be my birthday, not in 1977. I was born after that. But anyway, so there was a woman that was on the side of Lake Champlain that
Yeah.
snapped a picture. Have you seen this picture yet?
Yeah, that woman's name would be Sandy Mancy. Sandy Mancy is the person that took the photo.
Hmm. Well, I looked at the photo,
Yeah.
and I think the photo looks like a hand. And then I'm going to get into what they thought it was. Actually, I'll just talk about it. Um, if you look at the video or the picture, which the picture is all over online, and
Yeah.
I listened to the woman's statement about it, where she's completely convinced that this is obviously some sort of dinosaur. But
Like a
um,
plesiosaur.
but the when I first looked at this picture, I was like, that looks like somebody on that like had their hand up
Like they're
and
swimming.
they're yeah, it just looked like swimming. I was like, that doesn't look like real at all. Like, and that's always my thing. I'll get into it again later, but like, why is it always such a stupid looking picture? Like, why? Like when we get into all these, like, why is there like always this like really grainy, just not good looking picture?
Yeah. Well, this was 1977. So I,
So, how many pictures have you seen from 1977 that don't look terrible?
yeah, but you're taking something in motion, you're taking it fast.
Okay, yeah, and I will stop what I'm saying, and there is 240 sightings, eyewitness sightings from this
Hmm.
story. There is plenty of people out there that legitimately believe this, that are not fringe. They actually literally believe this.
Yeah.
Um, so I will go into also. They've had people out there that have done echolocation, which
Yeah.
they also call biosonar that they
Yeah.
have, and there was like this ridge that when they were doing these underwater echolocations, and it was like a ridge, and it was deeper than all the rest of the bottoms of the lake, and there was like basically like a cavern, and it said if it was going to go anywhere, it would be in there, and they even sent some drones down there, whatever you want to call it, and they did more echolocation, but they have gotten echolocation sound from this area when they would go over with the boat. So there's something emanating from that area, essentially, and there's only three animals essentially that do that.
Well, I mean, I've seen the sonar video of what looks like a plesiosaur just swimming on underneath, and like
Yeah.
this is how long ago was this? I know it was in the was it 2019? Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, and that was like
Oh.
the last sighting that this was done.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so so there's like groups and teams and stuff. They research this every day. They're out there every day in the summer because it's pretty much you don't want to be out there in the winter. It's like North New York, almost Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So September 10th, Katie Elizabeth, who's was part of this group, was actually she's the camp search director is Katie Elizabeth, and she was the one that got the sonar and got on video, loaded it up, and everybody that knows about it, cares to see it, has seen it. It's quite intriguing. It's an interesting video. It's really quick. You just kind of see something swim by, and that's quite large. So, but since 2019, haven't heard anything or seen anything. But there's people out there every summer, and you get the eyewitnesses that kind of the observation things that people are looking for something. They think they see what they're looking for, but that's not it at all. But yeah, I mean, there's between those two types of evidence and accounts of eyewitnesses that are out there that have been on record that said they've seen it. I don't know how much of the documentaries and stuff you've seen of
I
this.
watched two of them
Too.
today actually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful area. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh,
It's really
it looked great. Yeah, it looked.
yeah.
And
Um,
I'll get into that too because like it looked like really good fishing, and we're gonna get into that too.
yeah. Well, it's
Actually,
something.
we'll start. So let's circle back like I was wanting to do. Samuel de Champlain,
Hmm.
which I think he's originally from France and he went to Canada and he's like an
He
explorer
comes from
and
France.
yeah, he comes from
It
France.
has to be
Anyway,
France, right? Up
yeah,
around
it had to
Quebec.
be. Um, so his
Good
actual
fishing.
journal that people so like the what I stated originally is like the myth, the lore that like the hearsay that came from him, but his actual journal said that the creature he said that he saw lots of fish in
Hmm.
Lake Champlain, but he said the biggest fish he said was 8 to 10 feet, had a nose 2 feet with double row of teeth
Wow.
and scales that a dagger could not penetrate. And he was talking about how it had a weird nose, and so a lot of people equate that to a lake sturgeon. And I sent you
Wow.
that video of a white sturgeon.
Yeah.
Um, and so you saw that video that I sent you,
Hmm.
and it looked huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Certainly. Yeah. Those things are big. Yeah.
They're huge, man. Like, I mean, in the water, 8 to 10. And here's the thing. Here's what I'll get into. Like, so he said it was 8 to 10 feet. That white sturgeon is like, I think somewhere between 6 and 7 feet. Water refracts light. So whatever is going to look weird when it's
Hmm.
like the size is not going to look normal completely. I mean, if you're on the shore, it's going to look different. If you're on the water, it's going to different between all the fracting that's going to be going with all the light that's going on with that. And
Yeah.
like, I always like to think like, what exactly could it be that is probably the most likely thing that's going to be like? It's probably a sturgeon. It's probably like this giant fish because fish can get huge. Like catfish can get like
Yeah.
4 feet long, 5 feet long. And if you just
Hmm.
saw that like jump out of the water, you'd be like, oh, that's a monster.
Yeah. Yeah. And all people are seeing are like humps and things anyway. So it could just be, they
Yeah,
think that's a
humps.
massive hump, but no, it's just one catfish.
I mean, and then I was gonna get into like now that we're getting into that, like so a lot of the witnesses state that there's a head that comes out of the water with a neck,
Hmm.
and then typical plateosaur. Would you like to say, or why don't you go into what a plateosaur is?
I think, isn't it plesiosaur?
Please, I thought it was platosaur. Anyway,
I've been reading plesiosaur. I think plesiosaur is the one that it's kind of like the long neck, and then it's got like the giant flippers. It's kind of like your basic as you're a kid learning about dinosaurs. You're underwater.
four flippers.
Four flippers, yeah, yeah, two in the front and up in the torso area, and then two on the tail end. Yep. So, uh, which and it's interesting because this is the same thing that people claim to have seen in around the world in various places. I don't have the list of other places this could be. I mean, plesiosaur's been connected to the Loch Ness monster. There's some other places in other countries. I just don't know them all,
So
but
I actually sent you a thing that happened in Argentina.
mm,
Um, and I watched the video and I was reading into it. A lot of people think it was just a bunch of sea otters that were swimming in a line,
uh,
because like the water refracts. Like if you're not like
yeah, of course,
really close, like it just looks like a bunch of moving things with water displacement,
yeah,
you know. Um,
yeah.
I am, by the way, a sailor, and I do know that like the water gets really weird out there. And if you stare at it a long time, you start seeing weird stuff that probably wasn't there anyway.
Yep.
Um, um, so there were two scientists that did 80 different mappings and never saw anything. However, that super low at the bottom of that weird berry I was talking about, they did find some sonar sounds that were coming out of there that they couldn't
Hmm.
explain. So
Yeah.
there's something weird going on there. Let's jump to the X Files because
Oh,
we're doing the X
so
Files.
so we're saying what it could be. Another,
Yeah.
yes, another X-Files episode. What was the name of that episode too? I totally forgot. Do you have that?
Big Blue.
Well, that was the name of the episode though.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't even.
Let me,
I thought that
let
was the
me.
name.
No, I mean that's what it's about. But go ahead,
While
talk
you're
about
looking
it. I'm
up,
gonna find
I'll
out the.
talk. So the episode essentially, Mulder was tells Scully, he was like, "Hey, we're driving to this place," and she's like, "Why are we going there?" And he was like, "Well, I'm not gonna tell you." She's like, "You need to tell me." And he's like, "Well, I think there's this sea creature in this uh lake that's killing people." Throughout the episode, like a bunch of people get killed. There's a guy that this dude that has a local shop, like a bait and tackle shop, that sells merchandise for the
Yep.
Big Blue.
What you would
You know,
expect, and these
of
tourists they
course, of
make money
course.
off this stuff. Yeah, it's great.
But also in the episode, he makes his own tracks with a like a fake foot to
Oh wait, no,
put
they're like boots. He's
yeah,
walking.
yeah, he has like these dinosaur boots so he can make fake tracks and he gets killed. But in the episode, he gets killed by an alligator. And that's what Mulder like hears him like getting killed and runs over and is face to face with an alligator and shoots him with his 9 millimeter.
hmm
And that's where the episode like kind of ends. And my wife had to tell me that all of those X-Files episodes, they always show you like, oh, this is how it's not like the old ones would always show you like this is how like this actually isn't the thing. But it would always cut to a scene where it show you like, well, how it actually was a fringe incident. Because at the end of that episode, they shoot to the lake and
hmm
there's this basically this platosaur that like puts his head up and looks
Yeah.
around and goes back in the water. And so many X Files episodes are like that, where they're like, oh, like it's explainable, but then it like it will cut and the viewer will be seeing like actually it's not explainable.
Yep. You didn't find the actual truth. Yeah. So it was season three, episode 22. The title of it is called Quagmire. Is the name of the episode. Yeah. But yeah, definitely. But about Big Blue. So if you want to watch an X Files episode about something we're talking about today, of like Champ, it's
So,
check out
so
that X Files episode. Yeah.
one of the things I want to talk about to you, like we always talk about this, with cryptozoology, is with Bigfoot and all these other things. Like, so there'd have to be two of them in my aspect, because there'd have to be two of them because they would have to be able to mate. If they're gonna be like,
Mhm.
let's say it's a dinosaur, there had to be two of them
Yeah.
because they got to keep mating to be able to to continue on their species because they're not going to live 2,000 years, like they got to keep mating.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, what if there's a portal? I just went there. What if there's a portal?
There- and I think that was actually a theory with Loch Ness somewhere I read too.
Yeah, every time I research this, there's always somebody who's like, oh, they just go in and out of a portal. I'm like, well, that's a really easy answer,
Yeah.
like the easiest answer ever.
Well, if anything, there's that, and there's the hollow Earth theory too, where they go through. Seriously, when I was reading the Loch, there's a system of tunnels that it's just an eel that can go into, and then have like this underground type lake area where it can live.
So they were looking into this even recently that like this hollow earth theory, like there's a whole bunch into it, but there is some parts of that is true that there is underground like caverns of oceans, but they were saying that they call it oceans, but it's actually just rocks that are full of water essentially.
Mm, yeah.
What I don't know, like you can go back and forth about what's going on in the middle of the crust of the world, and like literally like even scientists they actually really don't have no idea. um
Mm-mm.
if you really look into it, scientists know less about what's in the earth's core and what's in the bottom of the ocean than they do about the stars in the sky.
hmm
That's completely true because like how are you going to get down there? Like, when it comes to the bottom of the ocean, like, we haven't been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, because
Huh.
our instruments like just implode before they even get down there. So I always wanted to, one of the old things I like with the old style show that we're gonna do with the new style show, we're gonna have a new segment. We haven't have we're gonna figure out what we're gonna call it, but it's gonna be the question I always love to throw at you that you don't know that I'm gonna throw at you. But that's gonna be this new segment. You can figure out what you're gonna call it, or we can figure it out together. But
All
so
right.
if you were contacted to catch or kill the creature, what would you use to catch or kill this creature?
Mm.
If it was essentially a platysaur, not a sturgeon,
Plesiosaur.
a plesiosaur, excuse me.
Well, it's close to Plattsburgh, so maybe it is a
And
pliosaur.
would you need a bigger boat? Hint, hint.
Ah, see? Yes, you probably need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I think I don't know if you would use a net. I mean, because you'd almost have to have some bait, and it's like obviously if it eats fish, you're gonna have to have something.
I was thinking like bait and like a harpoon, probably some sort of like high pressured harpoon.
Yeah, but I think it's smart enough that like it's just gonna stay away from boats too.
Like I'm such a an amazing fisherman, and such a self-proclaimed fisherman. I
You're
probably could
quite
just
you're
like
quite the outdoorsman.
yeah, I'm quite the outdoor. I mean, I pretty much could just hook it and just be like the old man in the sea, just like that story, and
Oh
just like
yeah,
ride it till the
great
end,
story. Great
till it's
story.
bones, and I'd be fine,
That's right.
maybe.
I'm
But
gonna I'll just jump in the water and catch it with my bare hands.
oh, stab it! Oh, just a wild man, stab it in the neck, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm working on my wild man look, so yeah, yeah. But yeah, I
Wasn't
don't
there
know. I don't know
like
how would you catch a underwater dinosaur?
oh, and this goes into my articles. So when you research stuff like that, there's always like I always say like the internet is so vast, and there's always somebody who's like, hey, the reason you can't find it is because it's going in and out of a portal at the bottom of the ocean. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, but that I don't
I
think
don't
that's
know.
happening. I've
Apparently, there's
been
a portal in Miami, so who knows? Dude, don't go down that rabbit hole. I was up way too late watching YouTube videos on that stuff. Wow.
about a portal in Miami
No, the whole suppose there's
about
like
the aliens in Miami.
yeah, that thing.
Oh yeah, oh that's a good
Woo.
one.
That's a,
That's why I brought it up last episode.
yeah, I know. I was like, I really got into it more. I was like, okay, I gotta stop watching this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one.
People just make. I mean, they get on YouTube and they get those views, man. And I tell you, they'll just make a
Yeah.
video every day, and if it doesn't have any content, they don't care. It's just keep it going.
So they
We have
have
more evidence. We have
so
more.
back to what we're talking about. There are platysaurs or whatever you call it. They have found bones of
That's not what I call it.
platysaurs,
Plesiosaurs.
plesiosaurs. I can't say the
That's
word. You just say
that's
it.
okay. We are not. What do you call it? We're not paleontologists.
We're cryptozoologists. So they have found the bones in Texas. Plenty of times they found the bones in Texas. Like I said
Mm,
earlier, they have found the bones of whales, like old whales in Vermont.
mhm.
Um, but for this, I'm always going to say in this show, where are the bones?
Yeah.
Where are the platysaur bones? They have not found. To what I've researched, they have not found one platus or whatever
Mm.
bones in um, Lake Champlain. It's only been whales. Yes, I get that. However, you have not found this. The closest dinosaur I think they said they found was it because they were researching Texas. And like, well, and I started looking into it. They have not found any platysaur in Lake Champlain. And us as cryptozoologists, I would
You're gonna
always.
drive listeners crazy calling it planosaur coming forward. I'm not joking. I'm like, God damn it, stop saying it.
Yeah, but we're the most skeptic people out of everybody. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I
I
mean, I'll go all
personally,
day. I'll go to Lake Champlain and look all day too, and I don't expect to see anything. but
But
I
like I
go.
said, that
I'll buy a
those
T-shirt.
there was two scientists that were paid to map the bottom of that lake, and they interviewed them. They found nothing. They saw
Yeah,
nothing. Um,
yeah, and
so
maybe
out
they're
of
looking.
everything, you would think, oh, and something interesting about that.
Hmm.
So, in 1982, which is the year that I was born, by the way, Vermont House of Representatives and the New York State Senate passed laws to protect champ
Hmm. Yeah,
and as an endangered species list.
yeah. Without proof that it exists, if it ever
And
is
that
seen,
and
that
that
nobody can capture or hurt it or harm it in any
well,
way.
that goes back to the 240 sightings of eyewitness
Yeah,
sightings.
yeah,
Like there's they people literally believe it out there.
yeah.
We
And the funny
obviously
thing
have.
is, people that don't believe it still stare out of the water. People that don't believe will still look out it and like thinking they're going to see something. That's how
Well,
big it
my
is there.
thing is like you're a fisherman. I'm a fisherman. You've sat out on a lake and just stared at the water for hours.
Yeah.
I mean, you start seeing weird stuff just like jumping out of the water. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know.
especially we live in the southeast, you see alligators and stuff.
And
That's fun.
that goes back to the X Files episode where it was
Hmm.
essentially an alligator.
Yeah.
I think is probably a sturgeon.
Sturgeon.
Sturgeons just like when you see a good video like the one I sent you, like
Yeah.
it looks so much bigger than you think it is. Like like that sturgeon video that I sent you, like if you just had a regular hook, it's gonna break that hook.
Oh
It's
yeah.
gonna yeah, it is not gonna get like taken from that.
No.
You're gonna need like a deep sea hook and like a bigger gauge wire or
Yeah. Well, you
and
said that there should be at least two. I think there should be at least a couple hundred.
well, yeah. There's the other thing. Like,
I mean,
if there was only two, like you think they would keep multiplying?
1609 was the first sighting, and then the most recent was 2019. There's no way that unless they bury and that they die and disintegrate, and you can't find anything. But
Which
there's
is it's so indicative that it is called the America's Loch Ness because they've never found anything in Loch Ness, and they've even proved that the original Loch Ness monster picture that is so famous was a complete hoax.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's just the folklore and the story of these things. Just people enjoy that more than probably. I mean, I don't know what you would do if you actually found some of these things. I mean, there are things that are found. The giant squid was found. It
yeah,
was that was supposedly mythology. That was supposedly folklore, a myth. That was a cryptid at one point, and then it was actually found. I think believe it's China. The Chinese fisherman brought one up, and it had the big eye and had the beak and everything. So it was
so
legit.
here where I'm at in the Pacific Northwest, there was and you'll have to look this up, and you can fact check on me. But there, one of the biggest squids ever found was at the bottom of the Sound,
Hmm.
the Puget Sound, because it's super deep, like it's super deep, and there's a lot of like area around it. It's pretty enclosed. Um, but there was a super big one found. I mean, I should have looked that up, but yeah, there's been a bunch of really big giant squids, and giant squid would used to be like, 20,000 leagues under the sea.
Yeah.
Used to be a fringe thing where there was a giant squid. Like, oh, there was never going to be one that big. They
Hmm.
get huge, man. They get bigger. They get the size of the torso is like the size of like a what, like a fish boat, essentially. And I don't know how long the tentacles get, but that's a big animal.
And
And
it's a real thing. We found it. So
and
I
I
don't know how
mean,
often you find it, but it's a legit thing. So
I mean, so whales are the biggest mammals on Earth.
mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Um, And yeah, was there maybe a whale trapped there? Probably not, because it would have died, and there's no way it could have kept spawning. That they wouldn't have been able to feed off of enough food to be able to live. However, I'm going to go back. It could have gone through and come back.
I mean, if yeah, we can use portals as a reason for everything, I guess.
I'm seriously like when you look it up, like everybody always like, oh, there's a portal. That's how it happened.
Yeah. Well,
Ridiculous.
we're not changing the podcast to Portal Hunter podcast, so
Yeah, I know. I'm not. It's just like it's ridiculous that I'm always like researching. It's like, oh, well, that's what happens. Like, there's a portal. I'm like, well, that's a stupid way of like just trying to figure out what happened.
right.
I think it's such a cool story. Essentially, like, you know, there's so many stories of like lake monsters out there. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm sure you fished at night and hear weird noises and see
Oh
weird
yeah.
things.
Oh yeah.
And there was the time that you always like to bring up where I went into the waters of Florida that were full of gators,
Yeah.
and those I don't care what anybody says, alligators are dinosaurs.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're probably the most descendant to a dinosaur. Crocodiles, alligators,
I mean, the
all
way
those.
that they can survive, like they can sleep underwater essentially, like they're the most resilient like predator I think I've ever seen. Like
Mhm.
the way that they can just deal with all of the elements. Like they can deal with the cold. They can like when it gets too cold, they just go down. And
Mhm.
they can control like their heartbeats and stuff. You can like look that up. I don't know if I'm completely saying that right, but like they're such an amazing creature, and they've obviously there's a reason why they're basically like the tank version of the animal world, essentially. And essentially, maybe that's why the X Files. We're gonna circle back to that. Maybe that's why the X Files talk about it.
No, no. So, Blake Champlain monster. What do you think? Real? Not
uh,
real?
so my problem, I when I was researching this, I was like, man, it's probably just a big fish. But 240 sightings.
Hmm.
That's a lot. That's not like. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't research how many Nessie sightings there are.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people in Scotland have seen Nessie, but 240 sightings. Yeah, it's been a long time, but like you said, up to what 2019, essentially, people are still
Yeah,
saying.
that's the one with the sonar, I believe.
I don't know, man. Like, there's something there. There's something obviously weird there. Is it a big sturgeon? Is there some like weird alligator? I think you would have. I mean, I always like to say, where are the bones?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Oh, this one was really weird. Um, the water monster stories are really weird because like how there's such a historical thing when it comes to like the seafarers and the sailors of old, and like how with like the map you were saying, like how
Hmm.
there's always like a dragon looking thing, it's dragon sea serpent looking
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that's always at the bottom of the map. It's like, why is
Yeah.
it there? You
Yeah.
know?
And it's just like all the other cryptids. There's a lot of history. I believe even the Iroquois Indians mentioned something about Lake Champlain at some point too, about it being a giant
Oh,
serpent.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, there's something I found. Um, um, yeah,
And what are?
the original story is related to Iroquois legends of giant snakes, which the Mohawk named Anoye Koa.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that's
How big is it? Look that up and see how big did they say it was? I'm kind
oh,
of interested.
that one's going to take me more time than I have, but
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, maybe we revisit this one because I kind of think this one's a little inconclusive. I think there's
Hmm.
something there. I don't think it's a
I don't think
plesiosaur.
it's an alligator. I don't think it's an alligator. I think you would know it was an
No,
alligator.
not that long. No, there's no way. It's
Hey,
too cold. It's no, and I just think they need to look for caves. I think that should be instead of like doing a
well,
sonar
that's what
sweep
they
of the
always
thing.
said about Loch Ness, that there's like
Yeah,
tons of like underground caves
look
around
for
there.
underground cave, the area that they're getting the echolocation, the sonar. They
Mhm.
need to do some cave searching, and I don't know if people are diving to look for it. That'd be crazy. I don't know if I would. Because what if
And
it's
they
something
did
else?
they did dive, and there was about they haven't. So that's the thing, they haven't found anything. They just have echo echolocation sounds that they've
Mhm.
found, but they have not found anything physically or anything on a radar or a sonar or anything. They have not found anything conclusive. They just
Okay.
have sounds.
We've said enough. I mean, like I said, it's inconclusive, and at that, I ain't got much more to say. Maybe I do research this a lot more and read some more about it because it's interesting.
We are now. What is our name again, Josh? I don't
The
remember.
Society of Cryptid Hunters.
There's going to be more to follow after this. This is our first episode under that name, and this is what we're doing now. And if you're a cryptid out there, we're going to find you.